The stars looked different from the observation deck of the celestial horizon. Lieutenant Olivia Mason pressed her hand against the cold glass, watching as the crystalline moon of Zerlos's Prime grew larger in the viewport. After 15 years as a Marine combat medic, she thought nothing could surprise her anymore. She was wrong. "First time seeing a crystal moon, Lieutenant?" Captain Alan Wright stood beside her, his weathered face reflecting the blue glow from the moon's surface. "Yes, sir. Never thought I'd be one of the first humans to visit the Xylonian Empire either." Olivia straightened her uniform. The blue and gold of the Alliance patch still looked strange next to her Marine insignia. The Xylonians kept to themselves for centuries before joining the Alliance. Even now, they rarely allow visitors. "Consider yourself lucky," the captain checked his watch. "Report to Shuttle Bay 3 in 30 minutes. Ambassador Clark wants all human representatives present for the landing?" Olivia nodded and took one last look at the glittering moon. Earth had joined the Galactic Alliance just 3 years ago in 2157. Now she was part of the military exchange program, representing humanity on a goodwill mission to a species that resembled living crystal. The shuttle bay buzzed with activity. When she arrived, 20 humans, a mix of diplomats, scientists, and military personnel gathered near the sleek silver transport. Ambassador Susan Clark, a tall woman with short gray hair, briefed the group. "Remember, the Xylonians communicate partly through light pulses from their crystalline bodies. Our translators will handle most of it, but be aware that strong emotions might cause light flares our technology can't interpret." Queen Veritax agreed to this visit reluctantly, so be on your best behavior. Olivia checked her medical kit one last time. Standard Alliance supplies plus specialized equipment for humans. She hoped she wouldn't need any of it. The shuttle ride was smooth until they entered the moon's unusual atmosphere. Light refracted through crystal particles in the air, creating rainbow patterns across the cabin. When they broke through the clouds, a collective gasp filled the shuttle. The Xylonian royal city sprawled below them, a vast metropolis of crystal spires and geometric patterns. Buildings caught the light of the distant sun and broke it into thousands of colors. At the center stood the royal palace, a massive structure that seemed to grow from the moon's surface like a perfect crystal formation. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Eric Foster, the xenobiologist seated next to Olivia. "And nearly impossible to attack," Olivia noted, her military training kicking in. "Natural fortress." The shuttle landed on a platform extending from the palace's midsection. A delegation of Xylonians waited for them. Unlike the buildings, which were made of clear or white crystal, the Xylonians themselves displayed a range of colors. Their humanoid bodies seemed carved from living gemstones, with light pulsing beneath their smooth surfaces. Ambassador Clark led the humans forward. A tall Xylonian with deep blue crystal skin stepped forward, light pulsing gently beneath her. "Surface, welcome to Xylos Prime. I am Royal Advisor Lysith. Queen Veritax awaits you in the Grand Hall." The humans followed Lysith through corridors of impossible beauty. Crystal walls caught their reflections and multiplied them, making Olivia feel like she was walking through a hall of mirrors. Royal guards lined their path, their red crystal bodies unmoving, holding staff weapons that glowed with internal energy. The Grand Hall opened before them, a vast chamber with a ceiling that seemed to disappear into darkness. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat Queen Veritax. Her crystal body shimmered with white light shot through with gold. Beside her throne, half hidden in the shadows, stood a smaller figure. "The prince," Dr. Foster whispered to Olivia. "They say he's young, even by their standards." "Maybe 50 years old." Olivia studied the small figure. Prince Xerith's crystal body was pale blue, almost transparent, with gentle pulses of light moving through him. He looked like a child, though Olivia knew Xylonians lived for thousands of years. The formal introductions began. Queen Veritax's voice came through the translators as cool and distant, welcoming them with practiced words that held little warmth. The prince remained silent, though his light pulses quickened when he looked at the humans. Halfway through, Ambassador Clark's response, the first explosion hit, the floor beneath them shook. Cracks appeared in the previously perfect crystal walls. Royal guards moved instantly to surround the queen and prince. "We're under attack." The queen's translator couldn't fully capture the panic in her light pulses. "Rebels have breached the outer defenses." A second explosion, closer this time. Part of the ceiling collapsed, blocking the main entrance. Screams and the sound of energy weapons filled the air. "Alliance representatives this way?" Lysith motioned toward a side passage. "We must get you to safety." Chaos erupted in the grand hall. Xylonian guards exchanged fire with attackers wearing dark armor. The crystal walls, beautiful but brittle, shattered under weapons fire. Olivia followed the evacuation route, helping a wounded diplomat. A flash of blue caught her eye. Prince Xerath had become separated from his mother in the confusion. The small crystal child stood frozen as a section of wall collapsed nearby. Without thinking, Olivia changed direction. "Get to the shuttle," she yelled to Dr. Foster, pushing the injured diplomat toward him. She sprinted across the hall, dodging falling crystal shards. She reached the prince just as another explosion rocked the palace. "Your Highness, we need to move." The translator, at her collar, struggled to convert her words to light pulses. The prince stared at her, with faceted eyes that somehow conveyed terror. His light pulses had become erratic. Looking around wildly, Olivia saw that the queen and her guards had been pushed back to another exit by the intensity of the attack. "I'll get you to your mother," Olivia promised, scooping up the prince. He was surprisingly light, his crystal body cool against her arms. "Hold on tight." More rebels poured into the hall. Their weapons fired beams that seemed specifically designed to damage crystal. Where they hit, Xylonian guards didn't just fall, they shattered. Olivia's combat training took over. She spotted a service passage behind a decorative panel and ran for it, sheltering the prince's body with her own. A blast hit the wall beside them, sending crystal shrapnel into her shoulder. She gritted her teeth against the pain and kept moving. The passage led downward, away from the fighting, but also away from the evacuation route. The prince's light pulses had weakened, and Olivia's translator could no longer interpret them. "Stay with me, Your Highness," she said, checking his crystalline form for damage. A crack ran along one arm, leaking a luminescent fluid. Olivia pulled a sealant from her medical kit and applied it to the wound. The prince's lights flickered in what she hoped was gratitude. Another explosion, far above them now. The whole palace seemed to shudder. "We need to keep moving," Olivia said, lifting the prince again. "I'm going to get you somewhere safe, and then we'll find your mother. I promise." The young Xylonian prince clung to her as they descended deeper into the tunnels beneath the royal city, leaving behind the sounds of a palace falling to rebel forces. Olivia's translator picked up a single phrase from the prince's fading light. "Pulses. They came for us. They always find us." The battle raged above as human and Xylonian alike found themselves caught in a war they didn't understand. While deep below, a human warrior carried a crystal child into darkness, bound by a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. The crystal tunnels stretched endlessly beneath the royal city. Olivia's boots echoed against the smooth floor as she carried Prince Xerath deeper into the network of passages. The sounds of battle had faded hours ago, replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional distant rumble. "How are you feeling, Your Highness?" Olivia asked, setting the young prince down on a flat crystal outcropping. Her translator flickered weakly, converting her words to light patterns. Prince Xerath's body pulsed with dim blue light. The crack in his arm had stopped leaking, but his entire form seemed less bright than before. The translator struggled to interpret his response. Mother ... lost ... frequency fading. Olivia frowned. Her knowledge of Xylonian biology was limited to the brief orientation she had received before the mission. She remembered that Xylonians communicated through light but also through subtle vibrations, frequencies too fine for human ears to detect. "I don't understand. What do you need?" She checked her medical scanner, but it wasn't designed for Xylonian physiology. The prince's light dimmed further. "Royal resonance ... sustains ... children need." Parent frequency. Understanding dawned on Olivia. Xylonian children required some kind of energy frequency from their parents, something the prince wasn't getting now that he was separated from his mother. You're getting weaker because you're away from your mother? Olivia asked. The prince's lights pulsed once in what she took as confirmation. Olivia checked her comm unit again. Still no signal. The crystal walls blocked all transmissions, leaving them completely cut off from both Alliance forces and Xylonian loyalists. She had no idea if the Queen had escaped or if help was coming. We need to find a way back to the surface, Olivia said, more to herself than to the prince. But not until I'm sure it's safe. She removed her pack and took inventory of their supplies. Water, emergency rations, her medical kit, a small energy pistol, and a portable light. It would have to be enough. The prince made a soft tinkling sound like crystal wind chimes. His light patterns became more erratic. Olivia's training kicked in. If the prince needed a specific frequency to survive, perhaps there was a way to mimic it. She remembered a xenobiology lecture about how different species responded to sound waves. Your Highness, can you show me what your mother's resonance feels like? Can you recreate it at all? The prince's faceted eyes fixed on her. After a moment, his body vibrated, producing a soft humming tone. It rose and fell in a pattern that reminded Olivia of a song without words. On impulse, Olivia began to hum back, trying to match the tone. The prince's lights flickered with surprise. She adjusted her pitch, moving up and down the scale until she found notes that made the prince's crystal body resonate slightly. Is this helping at all? She asked. Similar ... But helps. Came the halting translation. Encouraged, Olivia continued humming, then began to sing softly. She chose an old lullaby her own mother had sung to her. The simple melody seemed to have a positive effect. The prince's lights grew marginally stronger. Human. Voice ... creates vibrations ... Acceptable substitute, the translator managed to convey. Olivia smiled. Then I'll keep singing until we find your mother, I promise. They rested for several hours, with Olivia singing whenever the prince's lights began to dim. She tried different songs, discovering that melodies with long, sustained notes seemed most effective at stabilizing his condition. Eventually, they needed to move on. Olivia helped the prince to his feet. Which way should we go? Do you know these tunnels? The prince's lights pulsed weakly. Down path ... leads to Old City. People. There, Olivia nodded. Finding other Xylonians might be their best chance. She lifted the prince again, noticing how he seemed lighter than before, and headed down the sloping tunnel. After walking for what felt like hours, the tunnel widened into a vast underground cavern. Unlike the polished walls of the royal palace, this space looked ancient. Crystal formations grew in natural patterns, and pools of luminescent liquid dotted the floor. Old City, the prince's translator conveyed. Before Sky Building, Olivia paused, taking in the breathtaking sight. Your people used to live underground? Yes. Safer from ... Void Ones. Before Olivia could ask what Void Ones meant, a beam of energy struck the wall near her head. She dropped to the ground, shielding the prince with her body. Intruder! A voice called out in the Xylonian language, her translator struggling to keep up. Identify yourself. I'm Lieutenant Olivia Mason. Alliance military, she shouted back. I have Prince Xerath with me. He's injured and needs help. Silence followed her words. Then several Xylonians emerged from behind crystal formations. Their bodies glowed with subdued colors, greens, purples, and blues. None had the brilliant white gold of the queen or the pale blue of the prince. An older Xylonian with deep green crystal skin approached cautiously. When he saw the prince, his lights pulsed rapidly. The royal child Levs, he said, his own translator, converting his light patterns to human speech. We thought all the royal family had been captured or killed. Olivia slowly stood, still holding the prince. What happened at the palace? Did the queen escape? The green Xylonian's lights dimmed. The palace fell. The rebels control the surface. Now, Queen Veritax was taken alive. They need her intact for extraction. Extraction of what? Olivia asked. Another Xylonian, a smaller one with purple crystal, stepped forward. Royal crystal contains unique properties. The rebels harvest it. Olivia felt sick. They're mining the royal family for their crystal? Yes, the green Xylonian said, and they will search for the prince. His immature crystal is even more valuable. You should not have brought him here. You endanger us all? The prince's lights flickered anxiously. Olivia tightened her hold on him. I had nowhere else to go. He needs help. He's getting weaker without the queen's resonance. The Xylonians exchanged light patterns too complex for her translator. Finally, the green one nodded. I am Elder Crossed. We will shelter you temporarily, but you cannot stay. The rebels have detection technology that can sense royal crystal signatures. How many of you are down here? Olivia asked as they led her deeper into the old city. 42 survivors, Elder Crossed replied, mostly civilians who escaped when the attack began. They arrived at a hidden chamber where the other Xylonians had created a makeshift camp. Several looked damaged, with cracks or dull patches in their crystal bodies. A Xylonian with blue-violet crystal approached. I am Healer Nyx. Let me see the prince. Olivia gently set Prince Xerath down. He needs his mother's resonance frequency. I've been singing to him. It seems to help a little. Healer Nyx examined the prince, her lights pulsing in patterns Olivia couldn't understand. Human vocal vibrations as a substitute for royal resonance? Fascinating. It won't work forever, but it might keep him stable for a time. How long do we have? Olivia asked. Days, perhaps a week, the healer replied. Then his crystal will begin to fade permanently. Olivia knelt beside the prince. Then we have 1 week to either find the queen or get him off this moon. Impossible, Elder Cross said. The rebels control all transport. The Alliance forces have withdrawn from the system, believing both queen and prince dead. Then we'll have to make it possible, Olivia said firmly. She took the prince's small crystal hand in hers. I made a promise to get him back to his mother, and I intend to keep it. The prince's lights pulsed gently against her skin, and Olivia knew in that moment that she would do whatever it took to save this child, even if it meant facing an army of rebels alone. 3 days passed in the underground city. Olivia worked with Healer Nyx to stabilize Prince Xerath while Elder Crossed gathered information from Xylonians who risked trips to the surface. The news was never good. The rebels had established control over the entire moon. Alliance forces had indeed withdrawn from the system. Believing the diplomatic mission lost, Olivia sat with the prince in a small chamber carved from purple crystal. She had just finished singing another round of Earth songs. The prince's condition had stabilized somewhat, but he was still far from healthy. Your voice different today, the prince said through his translator. His command of human speech patterns had improved with exposure. I'm tired, Olivia admitted. But I'll keep singing as long as you need me to. The prince's lights pulsed gently. Why human help, not your people? Not your war, Olivia considered the question. Where I come from, we don't abandon children in danger, no matter who they are. Even alien child? Especially alien children, she said with a small smile. That's how peace is built, one act of kindness at a time. Elder Crossed entered the chamber, his green crystal body dimmer than usual. Lieutenant Mason, we must speak. Olivia nodded to the prince and followed the elder to a private alcove. Our scouts report the rebels are using detection devices in the city, Cross said. They sweep for royal crystal signatures. They will find us soon. Then we need to move deeper, Olivia suggested. There is nowhere deeper that can sustain us. And the prince's signature grows stronger. Stronger? How is that possible? I thought he was weakening. Healer Nyx joined them. It is most unusual. The human resonance you're singing is not merely sustaining him. It is changing him. Changing him? How? Olivia asked, alarmed. His crystal structure is adapting to your frequency patterns, Nyx explained. I have never seen such a thing. His royal signature is becoming more complex, layered with human neural patterns. Olivia frowned. Is this harmful to him? Unknown, Nyx admitted. But the change makes his signature more distinctive. The rebels will detect it more easily. Olivia rubbed her temples. Then we need a plan to get off this moon. Have your scouts found any unguarded ships? All spaceports are heavily guarded, Cross said, but there may be another way. A human remained behind during the evacuation, a merchant named Greg Bailey. He has been seen in the trading district, moving freely among the rebels. A human working with the rebels? Olivia's face hardened. Not with them, Nix corrected. He appears neutral. The rebels tolerate him because he supplies goods they need. Ken, you get a message to him? Cross's lights pulsed uncertainly. Possibly, but can you trust this human? I don't know, Olivia admitted. But another human might help us, especially if he has access to a ship. They drafted a message for Bailey, careful to include details only a human would understand. A young Xylonian volunteered to deliver it, disguised as a service crystal, while they waited for a response. Olivia continued caring for the prince. She noticed subtle changes in his appearance. His blue crystal had developed tiny flecks that seemed to respond directly to her voice. When she sang, they glowed brighter than the rest of his body. Does it hurt? She asked, pointing to the flecks. No, the prince replied. Feels ... connected, like mother's song, but different, human song. Olivia felt a surge of protectiveness. This child was changing because of her, adapting to survive. She would not let that survival be in vain. On the 5th day, the messenger returned with news that Bailey would meet them at an abandoned mining tunnel. Olivia prepared to go alone, but the prince insisted on accompanying her. Too dangerous, she argued. I am reason for danger, he replied simply. Must see human helper myself. Elder Cross reluctantly agreed. The prince shows wisdom beyond his years, and keeping you separated may be more dangerous now. Olivia didn't understand that comment until Nix explained later. Your frequencies have synchronized. When you are apart, his signature becomes more erratic, easier to detect. Together, you create a harmonic pattern that is more stable. The meeting point was a half-day's journey through narrowing crystal tunnels. Olivia carried the prince part of the way, singing softly to maintain their harmonic pattern. When they reached the designated spot, a human figure was already waiting. Greg Bailey was not what Olivia expected. Small and wiry, with dark hair streaked with gray, he looked more like an accountant than a space merchant. He stared openly at Olivia and the prince. Well, I'll be damned, he said. The rumors were true. A human marine and the missing prince, alive and well. Not exactly well, Olivia said cautiously. Are you alone? Bailey nodded. For now, but we shouldn't linger. Rebel patrols sweep this sector every few hours. We need to get off this moon, Olivia said. Do you have a ship? I do. A small trading vessel docked at the secondary port. Getting you to it will be the challenge. He studied the prince, especially with his highness glowing like a beacon. We've been working on that, Olivia said. She hummed a specific pattern that she and Nix had developed. The prince's lights dimmed in response, his signature dropping to barely visible levels. Bailey looked impressed. That's a neat trick, but the rebels have scanners, not just eyes. Do you know where they're keeping the queen? Olivia asked. Bailey's expression darkened. The mining complex on the dark side. They're extracting her crystal slowly. It single quotes S. The prince's lights flared briefly before Olivia soothed him with another hum. Can you get a message to Alliance Command? She asked. Let them know the prince is alive? I can try, Bailey said. My ship has a long-range communicator, but the rebels monitor all transmissions. What about the rebels themselves? Who are they? What do they want? Bailey glanced around nervously. They call themselves the Liberation Front, but they're just puppets. The real power is something else, something. Not Xylonian, the locals call them the Voidborn. The prince mentioned Void Ones, Olivia recalled. Ancient enemies of crystal beings, Bailey explained. They feed on crystal energy. Royal Xylonian crystal is a delicacy to them and a power source. The rebels are just their mining operation. A distant sound echoed through the tunnel. Bailey tensed. Patrol coming. We need to go. He handed Olivia a small device. This will guide you to Service Tunnel 12 near the secondary port. Meet me there tomorrow at the shift change. That's when the scanner coverage has gaps. I'll try. To get word to the Alliance. Why are you helping us? Olivia asked as they prepared to part ways. Bailey's eyes were hard. Because I've seen what they do to the Xylonians they capture. No one deserves that, especially not a child. He looked at the prince. Keep him singing your songs, Lieutenant. It's the most beautiful adaptation I've ever seen. As Bailey disappeared back into the tunnels, Olivia felt the prince's small crystal hand slip into hers. His lights pulsed in a pattern she was beginning to recognize as determination. We saved Mother, he said simply. We'll try, Olivia promised. Already wondering how a single human, a child prince, and a handful of civilian Xylonians could possibly stand against an army of rebels and their mysterious void-born masters. But looking at the prince's face, at the human-like patterns now woven through his crystal being, she knew she had to try. For this child who had changed to survive, she would change too, from medic to warrior, from peacekeeper to rebel, and perhaps together they would change the fate of an entire world. The journey to Service Tunnel 12 was dangerous. Olivia and Prince Xerath moved carefully through the crystal passages, staying close to maintain their harmonic pattern. Elder Crost had insisted on sending 2 Xylonian guards with them, a red crystal male named Keth and a purple female named Isla. Both had served in the Royal Security Force before the attack. Patrol ahead, Keth whispered, his lights dimming to near invisibility. The group pressed against the wall as rebel soldiers passed by a connecting tunnel. Olivia held her breath, one hand on her energy pistol, the other holding the prince close. The rebels carried long crystal staffs that hummed with power. Scanner weapons, Ila explained once the patrol had passed. They detect royal crystal signatures. They continued forward, following Bailey's device through increasingly narrow passages. The tunnels changed from the smooth, worked crystal of the old city to rough, natural formations. Sharp edges caught at their clothing and skin. These tunnels were not made for travel, Kef said. They are waste disposal channels from the old mining operations. The prince stayed silent most of the journey, conserving his energy. When his lights began to dim too much, Olivia would sing softly, just enough to strengthen their connection without creating a detectable signature. After 6 hours of slow progress, they reached a junction marked with ancient Xylonian symbols. Service. Tunnel 12, Isla translated. We wait here for the human Bailey. They found a small alcove to rest in. The prince sat beside Olivia, his small crystal body leaning against her side. The flecks in his crystal had spread, creating intricate patterns that resembled human neural pathways. Olivia, the prince said, using her name for the first time. If we find Mother, will you still sing? The question caught her off guard. You won't need my singing once we find the Queen, Your Highness. Her resonance is what you really need. The prince's lights pulsed in what Olivia had come to recognize as sadness. Different now? Need both? Before she could ask what he meant, Keth signaled for silence. Footsteps approached from the main tunnel. Bailey appeared, looking more nervous than before. He carried a large pack and wore the uniform of a rebel technician. Good, you made it, he said, keeping his voice low. We need to move quickly. I've, got disguises and bad news. What happened? Olivia asked as Bailey handed out rebel uniforms. I got a message to Alliance Command. They're sending a ship, but it won't arrive for 3 days. He helped the prince into a small uniform designed for Xylonian workers. The problem is, the Queen won't last that long. They're accelerating the extraction process. The prince's lights flared with distress. Olivia quickly hummed their calming pattern. How do you know this? Keth demanded. I overheard the mining. Supervisor, the Voidborn are impatient. Bailey handed Olivia a datapad. I downloaded the layout of the mining complex. The Queen is being held in the central extraction chamber. Olivia studied the map. Security? Heavy, but focused on external threats. They don't expect anyone to get this far? Bailey checked his watch. Shift change in 20 minutes. We move then, posing as maintenance workers. The disguises were convincing enough. Bailey had even found a special coating that temporarily dulled the Xylonians' natural glow, making them look like common laborers rather than royal guards. For the prince, he had a special container, a crystal transport unit, he explained, used for moving raw crystal. Your signature should be masked inside, but Lieutenant Mason needs to stay close to maintain your harmonic pattern. The prince looked fearfully at the box. I'll be right beside you the whole time, Olivia promised, and I'll keep humming our song. The plan worked better than they had hoped. During the shift change, they entered the mining complex through a service entrance. Bailey's forged access codes got them past the initial checkpoints. The prince remained hidden in the transport container, which Olivia pushed on a hovering cart. Act like you belong, Bailey murmured as they passed groups of rebels and Xylonian workers. No one questions maintenance. They made their way deeper into the complex. The walls here were scored with deep cuts where crystal had been harvested. Olivia felt sick seeing the destruction. It was like walking through the bones of a slaughtered giant dot in a quiet moment between patrols. The prince spoke from inside his container. Feel mother. Close now. Can you guide us to her? Olivia asked. Down. Center place. Pain there. Bailey checked the map. The central extraction chamber is 2 levels below us, but security will be tighter there. We've come too far to turn back, Olivia said. They found a service lift used for transporting extracted crystal. It was large enough for all of them. And the cart. As they descended, the temperature dropped noticeably. Extraction requires cold, Isla explained. Makes the crystal more ... yielding. The lift stopped. The doors opened to reveal a wide corridor lined with armed guards. Bailey tensed, but none of the guards paid them any attention. Their disguises were holding. They followed the flow of workers until they reached a massive chamber. Olivia nearly gasped at the sight. In the center, suspended in a crystalline frame, hung Queen Veritax. Her once brilliant white-gold body was now dull and scarred with deep extraction points. Around her, machines hummed, drawing glowing fluid. From her crystal form, "Mother," the prince whispered from his container. "Stay calm," Olivia murmured, though she felt anything but calm herself. "We need a distraction to clear the room." Bailey pointed to a control panel. "Those regulate the extraction rate. If they were to malfunction ... Keth nodded. "I can cause a surge in the system. It would force an evacuation." "Do it," Olivia said, while Bailey and Keth moved toward the control panel. Olivia and Isla pushed the cart closer to the Queen. Workers moved around them, focused on their grim tasks. Suddenly, alarms blared. The extraction machine sparked and smoked. "System overload." "Clear the chamber." A supervisor shouted. Workers and guards rushed toward the exits. In the confusion, Olivia opened the prince's container. "Stay with Isla," she ordered, drawing her energy pistol. "I'm going to free the Queen." As the room emptied, Olivia ran to the crystalline frame. Up close, the Queen's condition was even worse than it had appeared. Large sections of her crystal body had been harvested, leaving jagged edges and dull patches. "Your Majesty," Olivia said, searching for a release mechanism. "I'm Lieutenant Mason. I've brought your son." The Queen's lights flickered weakly. "My child lives?" "Yes, and he's here." Olivia found the controls and began shutting down the remaining extraction devices. The Queen's translator struggled to convert her faint light pulses. "Too late for me. Crystal core compromised." "We're getting you out of here," Olivia insisted. Finally, finding the release switch, the frame opened and the Queen collapsed into Olivia's arms. She was surprisingly light, much of her substance already harvested. "Xerith," the Queen called. The prince broke away from Isla and ran to his mother. Their lights pulsed in reunion, but the Queen's were fading rapidly. "My son?" "Changed," the Queen observed, touching the neural-like patterns in the prince's crystal. "Human resonance integration." "I've been singing to him," Olivia explained. "It was the only way to keep him alive." "Wise human," the Queen said. "Created new path for our people." Her lights dimmed further. "No time, take this." A small section of the Queen's core crystal detached, floating toward Olivia. "Royal memory." Crystal, the queen explained. All Xylonian history, all royal lineage, our future. Protect my son, he is last of royal line. Your Majesty, we're getting you out too, Olivia protested, but Bailey, who had returned with Keth, shook his head. The guards are regrouping, we have minutes at most. The queen's lights pulsed one last message to her son. The prince's translator didn't convert it, but his reaction, a flare of determination through his crystal body, told Olivia all she needed to know. I will keep him safe, Olivia promised, and I will help him reclaim his world. You already have, the queen said, her lights fading to mere sparks. You gave him life when all seemed lost. Now go, the Voidborn come. The alarms blared louder as Olivia made the hardest decision of her life. The queen's lights had dimmed to almost nothing. There was no time left. We have to go, Bailey urged, checking the corridor. Guards are coming back. Prince Zirith stood, frozen beside his mother, their crystal forms connected by the faintest thread of light. Your Highness, Olivia said gently. We must leave now. The prince's lights pulsed with grief, but he nodded. As they separated, the queen transferred one final pulse of energy to her son. Her body crystallized completely, becoming still and lifeless. Olivia carried the prince as they fled the chamber. The royal memory crystal the queen had given her now hung around her neck, warm against her skin. Keth and Ela led the way, with Bailey covering their rear. The main exits will be blocked, Bailey warned. We need another way out. Waste channels, Keth suggested, like the ones we came through. They found a maintenance hatch that led to a narrow tunnel. One by one, they squeezed through. The prince remained silent, his lights pulsing in a pattern Olivia recognized as morning. They had traveled perhaps half a kilometer when a strange sound echoed through the tunnel. It was like nothing Olivia had heard before, a high, thin whistling, followed by a deep vibration that made her teeth ache. Voidborn, Isla whispered, her purple crystal body trembling. They know the queen is gone. How far to the rendezvous point? Olivia asked Bailey. 2 kilometers. If we hurry, we can make it before they lock down the entire sector. They pushed on, the eerie sounds growing louder behind them. The prince stirred in Olivia's arms. Void ones hunt royal crystal, he said. Can feel me, can feel memory crystal. Olivia remembered what the queen had said about the prince's changed nature. Your human resonance pattern, could it mask the royal signature? The prince's lights pulsed thoughtfully. Maybe need stronger connection. Without hesitation, Olivia began to sing, not just humming this time, but a full song, an old earth battle hymn her father had taught her. The prince's crystal body responded, the human-like neural patterns glowing brighter while the traditional royal patterns dimmed. It's working, Bailey said in amazement. The signature is changing. They reached a junction where the tunnel split in 3 directions. The whistling sounds were closer now, echoing confusingly from all directions. Which way? Olivia asked. Keth pointed to the left passage. This leads toward the secondary port. As they turned, a dark shape materialized in the tunnel before them. It was vaguely humanoid, but seemed to be made of shifting shadows. Where its face should have been, there was only a dark void that pulled at the light around it. Voidborn, Isla gasped. The creature made no sound, but Olivia felt a terrible pressure in her mind. The prince cried out, his lights flickering wildly. Keth raised his weapon and fired. The energy bolt passed through the Voidborn with no effect. The creature drifted closer. Run! Bailey shouted, pulling them toward the right passage instead. They fled, the shadow creature pursuing with unhurried confidence. More shapes appeared in side tunnels, converging on their position. They're hurting us, Olivia realized. Away from the port. The prince suddenly squirmed in her arms. Stop, put down. We can't stop now. Trust, the prince insisted. Olivia hesitated, then set the prince on his feet. The small crystal child stood facing the approaching Voidborn. He placed one hand on the memory crystal around Olivia's neck, and the other on his own chest. Sing, Olivia, he commanded. Loudest song. Understanding dawned. Olivia began to sing with all her strength, the battle hymn echoing through the crystal tunnels. The prince's body began to vibrate in harmony with her voice. The neural patterns in his crystal glowed so brightly they almost obscured his natural blue color. The memory crystal at Olivia's neck resonated in response, amplifying the song. A wave of pure sound expanded outward from them, carrying harmonic patterns no Xylonian had ever created before. The Voidborn recoiled, their shadowy forms rippling as if in pain. The wave passed through them, disrupting their substance. They retreated, slipping back into the darkness of the side tunnels. What just happened? Bailey asked, staring at the prince in awe. The prince's lights pulsed with new confidence. Human song hurts void ones. They feed on pure crystal resonance. Human patterns poison them. That's why they wanted to harvest the royal family, Olivia realized. Pure crystal, untainted by other species. And why your singing protected him, Illa added. You were changing his resonance to something the Voidborn couldn't consume. The prince nodded. Mother knew. Her last gift was activating change completely. They continued toward the port, encountering no more Voidborn. The prince walked on his own now, staying close to Olivia, but moving with new strength. His lights pulsed in patterns that combined Xylonian royal sequences with distinctly human rhythms. When they finally reached the secondary port, Bailey led them to his ship, a small but sturdy trading vessel docked at a maintenance bay. The Alliance vessel will rendezvous with us near the system's outer moon, he explained as they boarded. From there we can reach Alliance space in 2 jumps. As Bailey prepared for launch, Olivia sat with the prince in the ship's small cabin. The memory crystal now rested in the prince's hands, pulsing softly with stored knowledge and power. You are queen now, the prince said unexpectedly. Olivia blinked in surprise. What? No, your highness, I'm human. I can't be queen of the Xylonians. Not queen of all Xylonians, the prince clarified. Queen to me. Royal resonance bond formed? Cannot be broken? Is that what your mother did at the end? She made me your guardian? The prince's lights pulsed affirmatively. More than guardian, second parent. My crystal carries your patterns now. First Xylonian human royal, Olivia felt overwhelmed. She had come to this moon as a combat medic on a diplomatic mission. Now she was responsible for the future of an alien royal line and a child who had literally changed his biological nature to survive. What happens when we reach Alliance space? She asked. Tell truth? Show new way? The prince's lights formed a pattern she hadn't seen before. Hope. Xylonians must change to survive Voidborn. Mother knew. You showed how. The ship rumbled as Bailey initiated launch sequences. Through the viewport, Olivia could see rebel forces converging on the port. Too late to stop them. They will hunt us, she warned. Yes, the prince agreed. But Alliance strong, and we have secret they cannot fight. He touched his crystal chest where the human neural patterns now permanently intertwined with his royal Xylonian structure. We have harmony they cannot break. As the ship lifted off, leaving the crystal moon behind, Olivia looked at the small alien child beside her, a prince who had adapted to survive, a royal heir who now carried human patterns in his very being. She had kept her promise to keep him alive, but had done far more than she ever imagined possible. The future was uncertain. The Voidborn and their rebel allies would continue their hunt. The Alliance might not understand or accept this new Xylonian human bond. The path to reclaiming the crystal moon would be long and difficult, but looking at the prince, his lights pulsing with determined brightness, Olivia knew they would face it together. A human warrior and an alien child, connected by song and sacrifice, had created something entirely new in the universe. And perhaps in that new harmony lay the salvation of both their peoples.